So again, thank you so much for taking your time to learn more about the Medal of Honor with us today. I'm Noelle Wall, the Director of Education at the Congressional Medal of Honor Society. I'm joined by Laura Jowdy, the Society's Archivist and Historical Collections Manager. And we are coming to you today from the Society's offices on the USS Yorktown in Patriots Point in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And above us is the Society Archive. We are sitting right near the Medal of Honor Recipients Museum, which is located above the Yorktown. A great place to visit if you find yourself in the Charleston area. Behind us, we have the library. So a lot of the resources about the recipients, about their stories. And like I said, Laura is going to give us a lot of great information today. So hi, Laura. Thanks for joining us and taking the time.
Hi, Noelle. I'm thrilled to be here and share our treasures.
Yeah. Well, they say that it is important to start from the beginning. Yes. So, Laura, can you start by telling us a little bit about what the Medal of Honor is?
The Medal of Honor is the United States' highest award for combat valor in action. It has to be against an enemy force. It started back during the Civil War, and on your screen you'll see some important dates. Those are really the bare minimum. Our website has a bit more of a timeline for you if you're interested in that today. Basic statistics are there, 64 living recipients. There have been 3,530 medals awarded. There have been 19 double recipients. So, you know, there's been actually very few. About 4 million people have served in the United States military since the Civil War, or actually, yes, since the Civil War. So it's a very exclusive club.
Oh, and so some of our listeners today might have heard Medal of Honor or Congressional Medal of Honor. So which one is correct?
The correct term is Medal of Honor. It is awarded in the name of Congress, but the correct military term is Medal of Honor. So that's what we use here.
And as I mentioned at the start of this webinar, Laura and I both work for the Congressional Medal of Honor Society. So Laura, can you tell us a little bit more about the Society's history?
The Society was chartered by Congress in 1958, and that's why we're called the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, as opposed to just Medal of Honor Society. It is that congressional charter. So, and one of the unique things about the Medal of Honor is its presentation. Well, it's presented in the name of Congress. It's typically nowadays done by the president himself in the White House. That's not always been the case, and we're going to share with you a clip here. This is Richard Sorensen's Medal of Honor presentation ceremony, and it was done at the Seattle Naval Hospital, where he was recovering from his action, where he jumped on a grenade to save the other men he was with. So what you see here now, these are probably the nursing corps from the naval station lined up to witness the presentation.
Nice. So you have a lot of videos of kind of different moments in history of these recipients who are receiving their awards in very different ways.
Oh, absolutely. Some, like Richard Sorensen, were at the naval centers where they're recovering. There have been ones at town halls and churches and schools all over the country. Some of them were actually in the field, say in Germany during World War II. There were a few. By the time you get to Vietnam, they tend to be more Pentagon or a military base or the White House.
So our listeners today, they may have seen some. So
absolutely,
modern day ceremonies are broadcast live in a lot of different places.
Right. News stations carry them. Sometimes the public service station carries them. Or sometimes even on whitehouse.gov, you can watch them when there's one being presented. So it's kind of nice that you have multiple viewing formats, even if you're, I mean, here you see a Navy guy in the background documenting his award, changing out the flash bulb. So these have been documented quite a bit in the modern era. So it's kind of exciting to be able to share those. And we've got some of them in our video library on our website.
Great. And from different moments in history, as I said, so you can kind of see the evolution of how the pomp and circumstance have changed as we kind of revere the medal and are able to share it in real time as it's awarded.
Exactly. And so our next slide is actually some images of presentations through time. So here we've got a few of them. This is the one in the top left is one of my favorites. That's in 1911 with President Taft presenting the medal to one of the Gojot brothers, who are one of our sets of brothers who have received the medal. And then we've got modern times, we've got Trump presenting it to, that's John Canley, and Barack Obama presenting it to a family member of a posthumous award. So, I mean, it's just sort of a snapshot of how presidents have awarded the medals, what this slide is showing us.
Yeah, absolutely. So the part of the work of the archives is what we just saw,
Exactly.
the videos kind of cataloging those stories of the Medal of Honor recipients. So can you tell us a little bit more about kind of what your role is and what the role of the archives is?
The archives is all about preserving the legacy and the history of the medals. It's about keeping that history alive for the future, and the men behind the medal as well. So it's all about, we have certain temperature controls, light controls. It's also about accountability of where the items came from. And we've got some interesting stories to share about how the medals end up here. And the society is chartered to protect the legacy of the medal. So that's really what I do.
So you get medals in a lot of different ways. So what are some examples of ways that a medal comes to be part of the society's collection?
Most often it's from a family member, sometimes the recipient himself, but we also get them from law enforcement when they've been involved in criminal situations, and we get them sometimes anonymously mailed to us. I've got one I'll show you here in a little bit that's actually a replica, but it's got a fascinating story because it just sort of showed up here. But we've got them as far away as, say, Switzerland.
Wow. So when you get a medal, when a medal arrives via mystery package or hand delivery, what do you do? How do you process it into the collection, and kind of where does it live?
Well, we document them thoroughly. If there's stains, if there's rust on the medal, sometimes they have that. We also do some paperwork with the donor. So we have that accountability of where it came from. We have that record. And the idea is just that we're showing not only where it came from, but also kind of, I mean, that's part of the story too, is
right.
Was it found in a wall in a house, which one was? Have no idea how it ended up in the wall of a house.
That's got to be a great story.
Exactly. There's a story of one that was in a pitcher that was passed down, a water pitcher passed down through the family, and they found it years later, and they're like, yeah, what is this thing in it? And they didn't even know what it was. They did some research. There's all sorts of stories of how they end up here.
Oh. So why are the medals themselves important to preserving and telling the stories of the recipients?
The medals themselves are the symbols of the legacy itself. It's a symbol of the person who received it and their actions. And it's really American history through time captured in a single object. The medal basically is a symbol of America. It's a symbol of our military history and everything we stand for.
Well, we have a number of medals that we're going to show our audience today. Can you start by telling us kind of why the various medals of honor look different?
Right. And that's because we're talking about time all the way back to the Civil War, and some of the designs have evolved. So it is possible that somebody may have received the medal once, but then they have multiple designs, and we'll see that here in a few minutes. But it's also about how they've distinguished the medal visually through time. So what you see here is the original design. This is Civil War. You've obviously got the Army medal and the Navy medal. The Army medal obviously went to the Army, Navy to the Navy, and you can see some of the different changes here between the two. We've got the eagle and the cannonballs on the Army, and then in the Navy we've got the anchor holding it up. So both
distinctly Navy.
Exactly, distinctly Navy. And then we've got Minerva, who's the goddess of wisdom and war, repulsing the enemy discord. And that, of course, we're talking about born out of the Civil War. So you've got the Union in Minerva and the Confederates and, discord. So.
Yeah. So what about some of the medals that you have to show us today?
Absolutely. Let's get to the good stuff.
Yes, gotta dive right in.
All right. So the first one I'm going to show you is an original Army Civil War medal, and it belonged to George Emmons, and he was part of the 27th Maine Infantry. And it's kind of an interesting story because the 27th Maine Infantry was stationed in Washington, D.C. as the Confederates were aiming up that way, and their term of enlistment was expiring, and the people in Washington went, oh no, if they leave we have nobody to protect us. So they begged them to stay and offered them all a Medal of Honor for staying, and some of them went ahead and went home, and some chose to stay beyond their enlistment and protect the city. And so in the end, medals were handed out to everyone in the 27th Maine, whether they stayed or not, and because nobody knew who stayed, nobody really kept really close tabs on it. So we don't know if this gentleman George Emmons stayed or went home or what he did, but we have his Medal of Honor here. All the 27th Maine Infantry Medals of Honor were actually revoked in 1916 because they determined that what they did didn't really meet the standards for the Medal of Honor. So I'm going to share this one with you. It's actually in excellent condition. And so I know that you probably can't see it very well on your screens. So that's why we have enlarged pictures of the engravings up there on the slide. So let me turn this one over and you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It's very shallow, this engraving, and you might be able to tell as you go through your slides the differences in the engraving. And that's also an interesting piece of history. So we have this one. This is an Army Civil War. We're going to look at a Navy Civil War now. And this one belonged to a man named Thomas Jenkins, and he was a foreign-born recipient. There were a lot of foreign-born recipients. He came from Australia. And so his is actually not in the best condition. And this is one of the problems with the Navy medal. It's because it's based on that anchor. You see, the star tends to come off. The little jump rings don't hold it very well. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get this in your view, guys. I apologize. And he was on the USS Cincinnati when it was sunk. That's a picture of the ship there. It's one of the few United States Navy ships that was repeatedly sunk and then refloated and put back into service. So it's kind of an interesting story just from that perspective. But at the time the Cincinnati was sinking and Jenkins was aboard, he and about 5 other enlisted guys spent some time swimming everybody to shore who couldn't swim, because apparently there was a number of the crew that could not swim. And so
Seems not ideal for a Navy.
Yeah. So they swam back and forth from the ship to the shore under fire to help their crewmates get safely to dry land. So our next one is going to be an Army. And in 1896, the Army redesigned their medal because the veterans group from the Civil War called the Grand Army of the Republic had taken the Medal of Honor design and designed their own membership medal that was a little too close for comfort for the Army. So they introduced this change, which, as you can see in the picture there, was really only to the ribbon. And what they did then is they sent out these medals to people who received the Medal of Honor. So, this is a case then where you could have received 2. The one I'm going to show you belonged to a guy named Thomas Hibson. And if we go to the next slide, you can see better his engraving. And he was another immigrant. He was born in England and came to the United States when he was 6 years old with his family. So he received his for Fort Wagner, which is right here close to where we are right now, just across the bay here. You can see both sides of it. And you'll see here what's common in these medals. Usually the ribbon wears out before anything else, which is what's happened here. You can see how short that ribbon is. So somebody shortened it up and tightened it up so it didn't fall apart. They probably cut off the frayed part and tied it up quicker. So what you actually see on your screen there in the middle, that's his petition for naturalization. And he based it on his military service during the Civil War.
Interesting. Really interesting artifact that you're able to have as part of his collection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in 1904, they redesigned it yet again because they said even that 1896 change was not enough of a differentiation from the GAR medal. So actually another Medal of Honor recipient, George Gillespie, designed this new 1904 for the Army with the iconic blue ribbon with the white stripes.
Yeah, this one looks a lot more familiar to those who have seen the images of the medal before.
Exactly. And this one was worn on the chest as well. So what I'm going to show you now is actually Hibson's 1904 version, because when they introduced the 1904, they of course sent him the 1904. And he took something really interesting here, and a lot of the guys ended up doing this. Later on, they also introduced the neck ribbon for the Medal of Honor. So what he did is he took his original chest ribbon from 1904. I'm going to try to support this one with 2 hands, guys. It's not in the best condition. And he put the neck ribbon on it. I'm going to just gently pull this out here so you can see it. So he actually hung his whole 1904 off of here instead of just taking the eagle portion and hooking it directly into the ribbon. But you can see here that there's the fraying of the ribbon. That's a common thing that happened with these. But here, let me try to show you the back side of it. So, and of course you can see it on the next slide.
Yeah, so it's interesting that he was able, that he received the next version and then was able to hold on to his original one as well.
Exactly. Initially, they wanted everybody to return their originals, and there was a bit of an outcry from the Medal of Honor recipients saying, this is the one that was presented to me. It means a lot.
Right.
So the powers that be, the War Department, changed their mind and said, okay, you can keep your original as well.
And you mentioned there's also some people who did receive 2 for 2 separate actions, right?
Exactly. One of the ones I also want to show you, this other 1904. This is from a gentleman named George Roosevelt. And yes, he is related to those Roosevelts. It's a bit of a distant connection to Teddy and Franklin. But he was related by as a cousin. And I'm having issues showing you guys this one. Here we go. There we go. And this is one of the ones that came to us from the FBI. Someone was trying to sell this one, and the FBI confiscated as part of that. And when the case had reached its final conclusion, I believe it was a fine in this case, the FBI said, well, we need to preserve this one. So they sent it on to us here at the Society. And
so that's what's known as stolen valor, that you're not allowed to sell the Medal of Honor.
Right, buy or sell the medal. So it's actually a felony. And you're also not allowed to trade or barter for it. So don't go trading your horse
or that in mind,
or your chickens or anything. It's not allowed. George Roosevelt also continued. He's one who had a particularly long time of service. He lost his leg at Gettysburg. So then he went into public service with the State Department, and he was a consul in several different places around the world. And as you can see from his obituary there, he died as the consul in Brussels, Belgium.
Interesting. So that's part of your work here in the archives at the Society, is to help tell the whole story, not just the moment of Medal of Honor action about what happens in their citation, but their whole story, their life and the legacy, and how they kind of show those Medal of Honor values in the moment and later.
Exactly. And also, just some of these guys went home and became farmers and contributed to the country that way. I mean, the vast majority of them actually went home and just lived their lives because it was part of who they were, but it wasn't, everything they were.
Right.
So It was all about, documenting as much as we can about each and every one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We have a few more to share as well.
We do. We've got so many more. This is a Spanish-American War, obviously, Robert Blume. And I'll show it to you here. And his is in relatively good condition as well. And he received the medal for helping cut a communications cable that ran through the bay at Cienfuegos, Cuba. And this was important because he's out in the middle of the bay under fire trying to cut this important communication cable so that the enemy can't, communicate with their own troops.
Right.
It was a very daring exploit, and the majority of the guys involved in that received the Medal of Honor, and Robert Blume was one of them.
Interesting. And I saw the Navy anchor once again kind of disconnecting from
Exactly. So in 1913, the Navy finally adopted that iconic blue ribbon, which I'm just included on this slide, the Army again, so that, you can see that the Navy now is introducing it in their own way. I've got one to show you. Remember I said earlier, one of the problems with the Navy one is that it tends to slip off that anchor. Yeah, so this gentleman came up with a solution for that.
Smart.
Yes. This is William Thordson. And so let me show you what he did here. See, he put the two chains on that is an aftermarket edition, just people. But, he had a problem. He found a solution to it. So good for him. This is from the Philippine Insurrection. And if you want to switch over to his slide, you can see his engraving a bit better there. And this is a case where the family brought us the medal, as well as a bunch of other really unique pieces. So after the war, he went and he was an electrician, and he was also a chauffeur. So what you see here is his chauffeur's license for New York City. And we had a number of these through the years. So it's not just this one, but it's like you can see through the 1920s, he was a chauffeur. And the photographs there, those are from the family as well. So we're always excited when we get, obviously, the medal, because it's a unique piece of history. We already talked about that importance, but being able to tell more of the story behind them.
Right. Yeah. And it's great that his family, helped tell that whole story with these artifacts, these kind of moments of his life where we can understand better kind of what happened to him and how he lived his life.
Exactly.
All right. I do see some questions coming in. If you have those, please just drop those in the Q&A box, and we will be getting to those in a moment, right after we finish showing you all these wonderful medals.
I know we're running a little long, but I'm so excited.
So much good stuff to share.
So this is a Philippine Insurrection, George Biegler, 1900. And here we've got our first one. Well, I suppose I showed you another one that had the neck ribbon as well, but this is the first time we're seeing sort of the start of that pad that the medal hangs from. You'll notice that has changed as well, the shape of that. So let me show you the back. This one you can kind of see the engraving a little better on maybe. If not,
and
of
it's
course,
beautiful. I mean, in
picture.
the image, you can see that.
It's really crisp.
Yeah.
It's well protected. So that was an Army. Let's go to the Navy again. We're kind of walking our way through time. This is George McCall Quartz. He was the Mexican campaign. And he graduated from the Naval Academy in 1907, and that's his graduation picture on the left. On the right, he's there as an officer later in his career. I believe it's 1926. So he had a long career in the Navy. So you notice his didn't have the pad at all. Well, now we're going to see another iteration of the pad. This is Frank Upton, and he received his medal for jumping into some water. There was a boiler explosion, and there were powder kegs floating in the water and exploding still. So he jumped in the water and saved somebody who was in danger of drowning, despite those kegs going off all around him. So he's World War I. And some of these older ones just have so much wording on them, as you can tell if you've been noticing. Modern ones, they don't quite put so much on there. I mean, this one practically has the entire citation on it.
Right. And I did have a couple of questions come in. So all these medals are part of the Society's permanent collection, right?
Yes, yes. Well, I believe one or two of them might be on loan from families, but yes, we keep them safe here.
And there's additional ones that are on display in the museum, but these are currently being preserved in the archives.
Exactly, yeah. So then we've got the Tiffany Cross, and I've got the dates of it on there. It was a short-lived one. It's called the Tiffany Cross because it was actually made, the design was made by Tiffany & Co., which you probably know from Breakfast at Tiffany's, you know, your famous jewelry store. This one is a replica. It appeared in a brown vanilla envelope anonymously in our offices. This is one of those anonymous ones, but I'm glad to have it because it's such a rare medal. And it was discontinued in 1942, and very few people actually received that design. So they're hard to come by.
Yeah. We have a couple more to share as well.
Exactly. And this one's interesting because this is one that was for sale in Britain, and Scotland Yard confiscated it, and then the FBI got it from Scotland Yard, and the FBI sent it to us. So now
quite the journey.
Yeah, exactly. So this is his Medal of Honor, and he received the medal. His plane lost 3 or 4 engines as it was being shot at in the sky on a bombing run, and he managed to still take the plane in, deliver the payload, and then get everybody in the crew to evacuate the plane. And his hope was to crash land it because their radio operator was in very bad condition. And so he and the co-pilot stayed in to try to get the plane to safety so they could get help for the radiomen. And they ended up, basically, the plane unfortunately disintegrated. They couldn't quite get the landing because they were running on one engine. They had a B-17 on one engine.
So this next slide will look familiar to a lot of you who might have been to our website or seen kind of the more current versions of the medal. So those are kind of our modern 3.
So we're just going to show you one more of the modern. This is Daniel Shea's Medal of Honor, and he has a very long citation, but the essential bits is that he ran through fire multiple times to pull back wounded brothers in arms so they could get help. And we see there is the iconic neck pad we are all familiar with. Let me show you the other side real quick. I almost need another webinar to actually show everything. And we have one more because we can't finish this off without giving a nod to the Air Force. We've done the Army and Navy the whole way through. The Air Force split off from the Army Air Corps, which Donald Gott was a part of, right after World War II, a few years after World War II. And so the question was, well, do we keep giving them the Army medal or do we need a new medal? So in 1965, they finally came up with a design for their own. So that's what this is. Bernard Fisher was the first one to receive it. But we're going to share John Levitow's Medal of Honor with you here. And so we've got the iconic pad again. And then actually on your screen, you see images of his plane, the plane he was actually in. It was hit by a mortar round. and they were trying to send some flares out so that troops could see them on the ground and use them for markers for supplies or what have you. And one of the flares went off when it was hit with, the plane was hit with the mortar. And Levitow hugged it to himself and took it to an open hatch to get it out because it was threatening the entire crew.
Wow. And it's great or interesting that we were able to have these photos to, again, really tell the story of what happened.
Exactly.
To kind of accompany the medal and understand what his actions entailed.
Exactly.
Right. Well, we did have a few questions come in, so let's ask a couple of these.
We're already over, so let's keep going.
Right. Well, we got a couple more minutes. Different times on our clocks here. But so how do you clean or preserve these medals, either when they come in or to spruce them up as they've been here a while?
I'm actually a big proponent that you don't clean them. And I know people want them to be all shiny and new looking, but part of the story of, I believe, any old object is kind of how it's been used and what it looks like. And that's going to include your rusts and your stain and all of that. My job is to stop it there, to keep it, safe. And so you don't want to obviously be introducing mold or anything that's going to continue to destroy the item you're taking care of. So my job is, those temperature controls and the light controls and our gloves. These keep my oils on. I mean, the number one rule of archives is always have clean hands. Right. But we wear the gloves as an extra protection to keep the oils from our hands from, hurting the objects.
Yeah. And so much of the condition it's in tells the story. I mean, the recipients who are part of the society now, they wear their medals frequently when they go out for speaking engagements, and a number of recipients will pass theirs around or let students see them if they go into a classroom. And that's part of the story. It is.
It's part of, I've seen them pass them around to groups of kids and stuff. And the preservation of me is going, no. But I know it's really important, and it adds a story to those medals that is important for our country and for the kids.
Absolutely. Was there anything else you want to share about the archives or about your work or kind of how we addressed this a little bit, but now that we've seen these medals, kind of how the archives fit into the mission of the society?
Well, the society were chartered to preserve the medal. We're the only organization currently chartered by Congress and the U.S. government to do so, which is why the FBI tends to donate things here. Right. But it's also, it's not just how we support the society's mission, it's how we support America. And again, it's keeping that legacy alive. And these medals are just such important little microcosms of history. They tell that little flashpoint, which then is a bigger story about, brothers in arms and how we came to be. It's how America came to be.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. Here at the Society, we are very grateful for our donors and those who make the work we do possible. The Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation, the Bruce McCall Family Foundation, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, Fisher House, and so many others. To find out more about our supporters or how you can become one to help the Society continue our work, then please visit the website you see here on your screen.
Right. I mean, we are chartered by Congress, but we get no money from the government.
Yeah, so nonprofit.
Yeah, nonprofit status. So we appreciate our donors a lot.
Yeah. And we thank you all for joining and being a part of this webinar today.
Absolutely.